Hey, this is Adam from Team Eastrike. I recently got a chance to sit down with my teammate Rylie Groff to talk about his top 8 finish at the Calling Cincinnati. We talked all about what happened in the top 64 and at the final table. I found it super interesting, super informative, and I wanted to post it up here for the greater Fab community to hopefully enjoy and pull some gems out of. I know I did. Anyway, so we got right into it. We started bantering, and I totally forgot to record an intro, so that's what I'm recording now. Yeah, I hope you enjoy it. If you do, please like and subscribe. We're building up our team's kind of social media presence, and we hope to bring you guys some really solid content from both me and all of our members in the near future. All right, enjoy. Let's talk
Let's
about
do it.
Cincinnati. The people out there, they want to know. They got to know, Riley. What's the secret? What's the special sauce? How do we win with Briar? I'm just kidding.
In sealed or in draft
No,
or
yeah. Like let's start. So
uh,
let's talk about your simple. Let's start there. So like
mm,
the majority of the people playing were Briar, and of
yeah.
course that's what we found. When we were going through in all of our sealeds at our locals and pre-release weekend, the Briar's an absolute house. So how did you feel about your Briar deck, seeing it in juxtaposed against other Briar decks on your climb?
hmm Um, well, it's with the sealed pool of six packs, it's really easy to build a Briar deck that can abuse the fact that the format has next to no arcane barrier.
Right.
So obviously that's why she's the most consistent go-to. Not only that, but it can also go the widest of all the heroes. Like
Mm-hmm.
Lexi has some capacity to go wide, but not to the extent that Briar can do it consistently. So I know when I was opening my packs, I saw an absurd, and I'm talking absurd amount of arcane damage. Like
Mm-hmm.
I had multiple Inspire Lightnings, like I think two reds, a yellow one. It's crazy stuff. A lot of support from the elements.
That's
S-
nasty.
Sigil of Suffering. I think it had like 10 non-attack actions, so I was going to be able to put Rosetta
Right.
Thorn online a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the one thing my deck did not have was equipment. So out of all my packs, I had one usable piece of equipment, which was a Plume of Evergrowth,
Mm-hmm.
which might not objectively be the worst one you could get, but definitely not the best one. It wasn't a Sutcliffe Suede Hides,
Right.
or anything like that. But I just kind of looked at it. I had the ideal ratios that I wanted, and I had a lot of synergy and a lot of arcane damage.
Okay.
I didn't have a lot going on with Lexi, not enough red arrows that I was ever going to make that work. I could have maybe built an Oldhim deck, but Oldhim without an absolutely crazy deck, trying to make it all the way to the end is going to be really, really challenging with all the really good Briars and all the like best players also piloting Briar and knowing how to abuse you. So I took the safe route. The packs told me to do it anyway. So that's what I went with. I built the deck. I got to register my sealed pool with Zach Bunn from Team Covenant,
Yep.
which was pretty crazy. He introduced himself to me, and
Very
I thought
cool.
I thought he looked very familiar. And then he told me his name was Zach, and I was like, "That's where I know you from." When I got into this game originally, or when I was deciding whether I wanted to get into the game or not,
Mhm.
I watched several of those original Team Covenant videos
Yeah, they
where
were great.
they're
They
like
were
six
awesome.
hour long streams or whatever, and I watched those whole things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm almost ashamed I didn't recognize him right away. So when he told me his name, I was like, oh, it all came flooding back to me immediately.
That's awesome. I think I was almost close to back with the professor, and I was like, if I flick my head around enough, I could see his
Uh,
back.
yeah.
I hear you. That's awesome. So, uh, I'm gonna do this to you. I'm so sorry. Um, I didn't. I said no ambushes. Ambush. Tell us about your first round.
Oh
Tell us
my
about
God,
your. How'd that go?
horribly.
Oh no! What
My
happened?
first
So
go.
people can watch out.
I don't know that there's anything you can watch out for if you're on the other end of this. I
That's fair.
honestly, my first round, I played against somebody. His name was Jeremy,
Mm-hmm.
and Jeremy ended up placing very well as I did. Going into top 32, he was seat 6 and I was seat 7, and we happened to just meet in the first round.
Yeah, yeah.
And Jeremy was also playing Briar, and Jeremy's Briar had a lot of ball lightnings. But yeah, he definitely nailed me with triple ball lightning on the same turn
There you
into a
go.
into a shock striker. With the mark, he also had a mark. He also had a mark of
Oh.
lightning, a mark of lightning to make things even worse. So, mark of lightning, I think dealt. I guess it would have dealt 4 damage in that
Yeah.
instance, right? Yeah, it was
Jeremy,
that was on like turn 3. It was really bad for me, really bad.
you are on our team watch list. Okay, we're watching you closely. These ball lightning turns.
Yeah,
That feels constructed. That feels like my absolute high roll. I call it big jerk Briar. That literally the entire game plan is just Sting of Sorcery and play 4 ball lightnings. um, that feels constructed. I'm so sorry that happened to you, Riley, but we had to. Come on, it's too good.
you know
Sorry
what?
not to
It's
go.
okay.
It is a good ending.
As traumatizing as that was when it happened, and
Mm-hmm.
how I don't want to say I was feeling frustrated, but how intimidated I was feeling after that, knowing that I was going to have to win
Mm-hmm.
almost all of my games, if not all of my games after that, to try to
Yep.
make top cut. It's poetic that it happened that way, because had it not happened that way, things could have turned out completely differently. My pairings could have been completely different. My matchups, who knows what would have happened if he hadn't high rolled me with triple ball lightning.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. There you go. Now let me ask you. So after that game, and you looked yourself hard in the face, and you said to yourself, like we had talked about earlier, "I'm just here to have fun." Did the doom music kick in? And in your brain, like I'm just imagining your face, like right there. Look, I'm like looking at you, and you're just like, and that all over from there, just straight shot to
I
destiny.
Man, I felt, I had talked to my friend. He came over after the game. He's like, "Oh, you know what happened?" And I explained it to him, and he said, "Well, you know what? Submarines always rise to the top." That's what he told me.
Summer and stress. That's words of wisdom, guys. I don't know. Wait, should we use words of wisdom for Fab Patreon or something like that? Kick that into high gear. Submarines rise to the top, and nuclear submarines rise to the
Hmm.
top. Riley, these are the torpedoes we're talking about.
And he kept checking in with me like the rest of the day, and kept like submarine. He'd walk by me and be like submarine, and it
Without
was
without
oh
that introduction, if somebody said to me submarine, I would immediately rage out. Like, what are you saying? I'm going down? It's like, no, you're rising to the top. All right, so let's get to the draft because that's kind of where it gets spicy. Like sealed in this format, I think is highly skilled, especially even if people are saying like like Briar's overwhelmingly crazy, so good. That's fine, but that just means you have to cut your way through a forest of briars to get to the top. Um, so that
boo,
what
boo.
the Briar patch, if you will. How did your draft go? Tell us if you remember it, what was your pack one pick one, and what? We'll start with there. Okay, what was your pack one pick one, if you remember?
I do remember.
Okay,
Of top 64, my pack one pick one was Deep Blue.
okay,
A very, it was just a very, very
oh,
safe pick. Yeah, very safe.
submarines rise to the top,
That's right.
Riley.
That's right.
That's amazing. Everyone is happy about that. You hit that
Hmm.
deep blue. Pack one, pick one. Nothing better.
You bet.
That's amazing. All right, so top 64, you get a sweet pack one, pick one. Did you feel a little bit locked in at that point?
I felt empowered. 'Cause when you see that in your first pack, you're like, "Oh, this
This
is
is
off to a
going
great start."
well. Yeah,
And not only
that's
that, you're taking it away from them, which is almost
mm-hmm.
just as good, because you don't want to
Yes.
sit across from the Deep Blue. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes, very true.
if you're the submarine, you want the Deep Blue on your side. It's just
Exactly. And then what was your first like big signal? I'm guessing. Correct me if I'm wrong, but usually when we're drafting and talking team strategy, we're staying fairly open with element cards. Um, for a little ways. I don't know if that was your strat, but what was the first big signal to you for what was open at the table or what was feeling good to play?
I stayed open for obviously I took the Deep Blue, and I
Mm-hmm.
stayed open then for 3 packs after that. And on
Okay.
pack 4, I saw a red Blizzard Bolt.
Oh wait, pick four, right?
Yeah, I guess
Oh,
technically
because you
right.
said pack for it. I was like, okay, wait, how many packs are in this draft?
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
realized that I
Yeah,
didn't
sorry,
know.
sorry, sorry. Pick four.
No,
No.
no, I knew.
Uh,
I wish I could claim that I knew what you meant, but my brain was confuzzled. All right, my brain was confuzzled.
yes, four would have been the fourth pack that I saw, but we were
Okay.
on pack one, right?
Okay, perfect. So
Uh,
pack one, pick four. What was it?
correct. I saw a red Blizzard Bolt,
Okay.
and then I passed up on it, in favor of still trying to stay open. And then the following pick, pick five, I saw another red Blizzard Bolt.
Okay.
And at that point, I took the red Blizzard Bolt, and I was like, I'm pretty confident I'm going Lexi this draft.
Okay.
And I did, and I was heavily rewarded
Mm,
because there was so much Ice Lexi support in that pool in general. I ended up with a ton of red Ice arrows.
that's
It
amazing.
ended up very strong, and I believe I had around 10 Ice cards with some good ones like Polar Blast, and I think like Red Icy Encounter. I think like Winter's Grasp and some other like really really strong ones,
Right.
as well as just some other generally like pretty powerful cards like some Overflexes and things like that.
That's awesome. So you felt really confident. Now, Lexi, after this past calling, Lexi's been catching a lot of flack in draft for not, for various sources being like, well, Lexi's barely viable in the face of like a strong Earth Oldhim, can't always keep up with Briar. But I personally believe, and it sounds like, kind of you're on the same page too, is that a strong, well supported Ice Lexi is an absolute house.
I I unfortunately probably do have to agree with the sentiment that like against a Earth defensive Oldhim, you're gonna lose those matches
Okay.
75% of the time. But knowing that the majority of your pool wants to draft Briar and are potentially going to force Briar, if they have a mediocre Briar pool, and let's say you have four Briars, let's say your pool is 4-2-2, the four being Briar, of
Right.
course. All you need to know is like you're probably if you're playing 3 rounds,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to play 50% of each of those, right? So odds are you're going to see two Briars and an Oldhim, or two Briars and the other Lexi.
Okay.
And if I see those two Briars, I'm going to win those games, and I only need to win two to advance. And that was my mindset. That was my strategy, and that's exactly what ended up happening in top
Right. Right.
64.
Right. Okay, that's awesome. I love that thought process. I wonder how things will change now. Obviously, with the amount of coverage it's gotten, like going into nationals with the draft rounds, how competitive those Oldham slots are going to be um, is really a question in my mind of like how hard are people going to try to force that archetype, and how poorly is that going to end up working out if that happens, right? It's kind of like what level of game theory do you want to run to, right? Do you want to beat what people are thinking,
Mhm.
or like assume that people are thinking what you're thinking and then beat that?
Well, I can say Matt Rogers drafted Lexi in top 8, so that's probably going to be the sought after hero now.
but maybe, I mean, that did get the most channel fireball coverage up
Like,
until rounds where that by necessity was cut short.
mhm.
Um, yeah, I did wonder myself when I saw Matt start to cut into Lexi, um, what was going on, because just in our locals, obviously not the most competitive thing, but we've played a lot of draft at our locals, and um, yeah, Lexi is usually not getting there. It's almost always a Briar and an Oldhim. So I was very curious. But then I was like, kind of your thought on that. I was like, well, if he's getting that support, if it's super open, pump and dominate with turn disruption. You can't really complain about that. You've always got a chance
Mhm.
to pull it out, and if you can get the best deck of that on the table, like, awesome.
So when we were drafting in top 8, it was a nightmare. It was really a nightmare, seriously, trying to draft in that. Nobody was giving
Oh
any
my
signals.
gosh,
None. Everyone
nothing.
was trying to stay open. I could tell everyone was trying to stay open like 8 picks in.
Okay.
There was the cards that were getting passed were unbelievable. Like I think it was like pack one pick probably like 7 or something for me. I saw a Terra Sunder and not long after that, I saw like an Endless Winter.
Yeah.
So I snap picked the Terra Sunder because I'm like, even if I'm not going this, I don't want anyone else to have it, and
Yeah.
I don't know what I want to commit to, so I kept it. And then I saw an Endless Winter after that, and I was like, okay, it's very obvious to me that either everyone's terrified to commit to anything right now, or they're just going to fight over Lexi and Briar. So I just started picking all of the old him cards,
Yeah.
and that did not change for the next two packs. So they were fighting for scraps, honestly, is what it was. And I just don't think they wanted to send signals each other's way because I would get packs that was just they'd have like five Briar cards in them, and nobody took them, and also
Right.
nobody took the Guardian cards.
It's
So
just
I
pure
was like, what
element.
is going
Like,
on?
let's take every blue element card possible.
That's exactly what they're doing. They were just taking all of the element cards,
Hmm.
and no, all next to no class specific cards were getting picked. It was
Okay.
very very strange.
That is very interesting, and kind of leads to another level of like, well, if you hard cut early enough with your class cards and just start taking all those premium picks, and then by the time everyone else is pretty satiated with their elements, like start picking those up closer to the end of the second pack into the third pack, like that's something to think about, for sure. So you felt very rewarded by that.
I did.
Okay.
I honestly think that my Oldhim deck was very very strong.
Hmm.
And I had a hunch that if I was not the only person drafting Oldhim, the other person that was obviously on the other end of the table.
Right.
And my biggest concern was that knowing I was going to be playing Michael Feng was that he was also drafting Oldhim. And
Mm,
unfortunately, that's exactly how that's how it worked out.
right.
Which is really bad for me because he ended up with about twice as many Earth cards as I did,
Yeah.
and playing that mirror just was a death sentence for me at that point. But I felt very confident knowing that if I had played one of the Lexi or Briars, I had a very very favored chance of winning those games. And even following my game with Michael, we talked a little bit, and he he didn't want to agree with me because obviously he had more games to play still.
Yeah.
I probably didn't want to jinx or sick himself out, but I told him, I said, I have no doubt in my mind that you're going to win this because our deck qualities
Hmm.
were two tiers above the Briars and the Lexis that were in that pool.
Right.
Um, so I'm not surprised at all that he ended up winning. In fact, I think he was most likely going to win
Okay.
based on how the draft went and based on the quality of cards.
So I wonder what that comes down to is like when you are thinking you're in an old him spot and you have like the fire pick, right? Like the Terra Sunder, or you have that discipline take another blue earth card. That's got to be like heart wrenching too. That's
Mm-hmm.
got to be hard because I want that Terra Sunder. I want it so bad. But then
There
I.
was there was two Terra Sunders in the pool. I found out later,
Ooh.
and Michael did tell me that he passed up on one of them.
Yep.
Um,
That's
so
nutty.
a man with more patience than I have, clearly.
Because if you're gonna play that Terra Sunder, most of the time you're gonna take some damage to do it, right? Because you need to pay for the Terror Sunder, then you need to pay for at minimum the weapon swing. So yeah, that gets real expensive real fast. So, I mean, that's probably going to cost you a good bit of life, depending on what you have, if it's an arsenal or not. Did you ever? Did you? How often did you find yourself using that defense reaction?
Well, I only played one game of Oldhim in the entire main event.
Yeah. In that one game of Oldhim.
Not much at all because I was predominantly ice.
Okay.
And Michael played so
Mm-hmm.
exceptionally well that when he was doing anything aggressive, he was leaving no cards in his hand. So there was at no point where I would ever want to try to pitch an ice card to try to get him to put something on top of deck because he'd had nothing in hand when it came
Right.
up.
Right. Right. Right.
So I think like maybe twice in the entire game that I get to pitch an earth card for the defense reaction. And I did like every single time I had the opportunity to, but I just didn't have the chance nearly as much as he did, and
Absolutely.
that's what inevitably took him to win the game. I just couldn't push
Mm,
nearly enough damage through to either kill him or deck him out. It just was never. I wasn't in my favor.
right. Absolutely. All right. Well, hey, Did super awesome. You got to top 8, dude. We were all, I tell you what, our Discord was kind of blowing up for a minute there. We were all rooting for you. Vaz was throwing us some updates too, spamming that like, "Add everyone early." So it was awesome. It was a fantastic moment to be supporting you, and I'm sure a fantastic moment to be you. And the submarine did indeed rise to the top.
Submarine rose to the top. It sure did.
So going into nationals, obviously we're all going to be drafting first thing. Folks with invites. Is there anything else you want to throw out to the people? Let them know. Give them some words of advice, straight from the font. Some encouragement, some maxims about submarines.
One thing that I learned by juxtaposing myself to other players is there are a lot of people that were so rigid in their hero choice who just were going to force Briar no matter what was sent their way. And I think that is such a handicap. I had an acquaintance that was also in top 32, and if I remember correctly, I'm not sure if he didn't make it to the top 8. I don't think he did very well in the top 32, and I was told that he was more or less refusing to play Lexi no matter what, and I'm pretty sure his seat was to draft Lexi.
Okay.
And he just didn't want to do it. I don't know if it was because he just didn't think the archetype was good enough, or if he wasn't comfortable playing the cards, what have you. The best advice really I can give you, and it's so generic, is just draft your seat to the best of your capacity, really, because that's going to give you the highest statistical advantage to get wins and make it on to the next round. If you're lucky and it's Briar, good for you. If it's Lexi, don't resist it. Don't resist it. I promise you, she's viable.
The strongest Lexi is probably going to absolutely dumpster the most mid-tier Briar.
And that's my point. That's my point exactly, seriously, because I ended up in top 64 playing 6 rounds. I played Lexi all 6 rounds.
Yeah.
And I was 3-0 against Briars. So
there you go.
You take that for what it's worth, I guess.
Take the best pool and opportunities that you're presented is, I think, such strong advice. And something, a lot of people who are playing Flesh and Blood maybe don't actually. There's kind of a constant thing I'm running into where everyone assumes people playing Fab were coming from other card games, and that is obviously true a great amount of the time because people have hobbies and they expand those hobbies. But a lot of folks are brand new to the card games. This is their first one. Or in those other card games, they didn't do a lot of limited. So we've been having to do kind of like a lot of those basics and essentials teaching at my locals and trying to get folks on board. And that advice is the most critical advice, which is like play, as you say, the seat that you're given. Take those signals when strong cards are passed to you after a couple picks and you're just like, yep. I will be taking this red chilling ice vein right now.
Yes. If you see 2 red blizzard bolts in a row, safe to say, yes, that's your green light to start drafting Lexi.
You're good. So one last question is, and this is Lexi specific actually, and something I've been wondering about because that's actually playing my seat at my locals. I've just had the variance unlucky nature because I wanted to practice everything of having the least Lexi experience possible. How many did you just take every good red arrow that came to you? Like, would you cap out at that at a certain point, knowing that you can only play them from Arsenal?
There's an argument to be made for that. Absolutely. But I didn't.
You just take them. Well, they block 3. They block 3. You can't complain, right?
To be 100% honest, that was part of my argument because I was thinking like, well, the more arrows I have, if I have to play an old M or whatever, someone who's going to try to deck me out or just try to beat me down, I have so much more block available to me than maybe anyone else will. Because Lexi's surprisingly defensive in that regard. Because if you get all those arrows,
block 3s.
So yeah, I did pretty much every red arrow if I saw one, I took it. Yellow ones, I prioritize them too. You don't need a ton of blues really to initialize your strategy playing Lexi. When I took blues, I tried to make them element cards or support cards when I could. And just tried to lean heavy into the game plan of dominate a red arrow and fuse for on hit effects.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? It make That's true. Just get as much as you can and play it. Play that heap just in
Hmm.
case you do run into the Earth Oldhim and need to just keep going.
Hmm.
I at our locals recently, really great guy who started. He came for a couple. Um, he played. I was playing an Earth Oldhim, and that was my strat. Is like like all right, we're gonna block. We're gonna use the D react. We're gonna run him out. And then I realized we got about what I would consider about 80% of the game through. I was still at a fairly decent life total, and his deck was bigger than mine. And I said, "What's going on?" And he's like, "Oh, it's my strategy." And I was like, "What's your strategy?" And he's like, "Draft 45 playable cards." And I was like, "Okay." And then I
Yep,
lost that game.
that's that's the 5 head level play right there. You
Exactly.
just
Just
if you
draft
go
45 playables, Riley. Duh.
if you go in, but seriously, if you go in, maybe in your casual environment, or maybe last week at Dallas,
Mm-hmm.
for example, where the overall field is saying Lexi's not viable. You can
Draft
walk into your
Lexi.
you can walk into your pod and just snap pick Lexi off of the bat and get
Yeah.
every single card.
Every
And
time.
I thought about doing that because
Yeah.
I felt like people were having the same feelings even still going into
Right.
Cincinnati. And it seems like for the most part that was accurate
Because
because
nobody wants ice anyway, right? Oldhim wants Earth.
I
Lexi
was
wants ice, and that's it.
I was picking ice cards from the jump.
Mm-hmm.
Almost every single time when I was seeing the strong ones, the red icing counter.
Yeah, I mean, geez, like throw a couple weave ices and a
Mhm. Blue
over flex on there, and
Blue Polar
chef's kiss,
Blast.
good to go. Blue polar bears, there you go.
You want to talk about a good card?
Right.
Blue Polar Blast. Oh my god! Don't get me started about Blue Polar
Yes.
Blast.
Riley, I'm gonna see you in Florida. Obviously, we're gonna have a lot of fun at nationals. It's gonna be a great time. I'm so hyped. I'm so ready to go. I wish it was tomorrow. I could just bust my suitcase out right now and just get on that plane. Yeah.
I've never been more excited. I don't think to play Flesh and Blood
Woo!
since since like the first week I started playing it. It's
Yes.
I feel so like rejuvenated in like my passion for the game, and
Mm-hmm.
this really is a fun game. If you're somehow watching this and you don't play the game, first off, why are you here? That seems strange to me. But
They're just
second off,
fans, rather. They're just
yeah,
fans.
give it a try. Larry. This
Yeah.
game it's so much. It's so much fun.
So good.
It's so well
Whatever
designed.
game you're playing
Uh,
now, I'm sure it's great. I'm not putting it down. This one's better.
I concur. No, true. I concur. I've played dozens of card games and at competitive levels too, and
Yep.
nothing's ever really connected with me in the way that Flesh and Blood does. It just ticks every single box for me.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much again, Riley. Congratulations again on an awesome top eight. Enjoy your beautiful card. Wait, Riley, can we see it?
Yeah, I can get it up for you.
Can we see it?
Yeah. From what I understand, I did a little bit of digging, and it seems to be at least at this time, probably
Mm-hmm.
for the next 2 weeks until Florida, a one of a kind,
One of one.
none other in existence
My God.
currently. But yeah, give me one sec.
Yes.
All right, so
Oh my God.
whenever
Yeah.
you're ready,
Go. Slow
uh,
reveal.
I see the name.
Oh, it's so pretty. Wait. There's yeah. Flick it. Like give it a little spin. The glare's hitting it.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, that's so nice. Look at that. Oh, I love
Yeah.
it.
My camera refuses to focus, but I promise you it's gorgeous.
It. Oh my God. They fix. So I'm not a huge. I have a cold foil one of those, and I'm not a huge fan of it. The gold foil looks awesome.
The regular cold foil is very underwhelming. Um, this one is not.
No,
This
that I can tell even through the case, through the glare, I can tell
yeah.
they fixed that bad boy. That's amazing.
The boots are a very metallic finish,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a very very dark foiling on the tattered cloth that you can really only you can see if you like looks like
Get, ah, I have to. I have to. Oh my gosh. Universe, enormous squid in the sky. Blessings be upon me. I must win. I need one.
I think there's a couple one-on-ones left still from the new set that somebody
Gotta
could still
get
get
in
their hands on,
there.
I think. Yeah. So I will say it's really cool to be able to say that I'm the first person in history to have a cold foil spellbound creepers. Pretty cool.
Amazing. It is cool. That's so sick. Riley, thank you so much for joining us, for chatting with me tonight, letting the people know a little bit about your draft. I'm Adam from East Strike, Team East Strike, and you've been Rylie Groff is on this side, been talking to you.
Thanks for having me on, Adam. It was a blast.